Welcome to the 5G Podcast.
We're glad you're here.
We hope you enjoy our conversations about God, guns, games, goals, and gastronomy.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode.
Alrighty,
Let's begin.
let us begin. Last week, I started with a business article
Yes.
about the Epic Game Store.
Mhm.
Figured I would continue on that
The trend.
the trend with an article that I read about and I didn't real. It's about financial projections in Magic the Gathering.
Okay, interesting.
So I didn't realize that groups, so Counter-Strike
Yeah.
has people who will study the skin markets
Right.
and purchase a skin speculating that it will increase in price.
It's a stock market for a hobby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that people also did this with Magic the Gathering, which was a stupid assumption on my part.
Yeah.
It wasn't even an assumption. Maybe I didn't think about it. It never crossed my mind,
Yeah.
right?
That's
And I mean, there's a market for everything. And so obviously people are going to speculate on these markets, right?
Totally.
And I was, I saw this article and it piqued my interest. So I was like, I'm going to give it a read. It was quite a fascinating article. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on the kind of the 1,000-foot view from the author.
Okay.
Had 5 points. And I'll link the article in the description of the video or whatever,
sure, yeah.
just to have it there for everyone.
Credit.
It was a very well written article, and like it really was.
You could tell ChatGPT didn't write it.
No, for sure,
It's
because
positive these days.
it was very well thought through. It wasn't just like a complaining piece about like, oh, the markets have crashed for MTG cards, and it's all Wizards of the Coast's fault.
Yeah.
Right? No, it was very well written, and it was a very macro analysis of. The author basically said like, look, Wizards of the Coast is partly to blame for it, but it's also not like a Wizards of the Coast thing to control.
Yeah.
They control the supply of normal cards, and they sell at a fixed price. They don't care what the market in general does as a business practice,
Yeah.
right? Maybe in terms of player and game health, they do.
Right.
But in terms of just like their bottom line, the secondary market, which is what all these markets are, isn't affected.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't affect their bottom line.
They're responsible to keep the game alive,
Exactly.
which fuels the secondary market.
And the market is a good barometer, a good
Sure.
temperature gauge to figure out what the health of the game is.
Makes sense.
right?
Yep.
Just like the stock market is a good gauge. Well, used to be a good gauge for like the overall economy. And now it's just so bass backwards that no one knows what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like everyone's like, this is like way tangential to what I wanted to talk about.
Yes. I mean, money.
But I listened to quite a few, economists and finance people and things
Podcasts
like
and-
that. And 50% of them say the market's going to go straight up from now on. Like it's just like going up, and like they've historically been correct, like with their
Okay.
predictions.
Okay.
And then the other 50% are saying the market's going to crash and burn, and it's going to be the greatest recession we've ever seen.
We're still going.
It's going to be worse than the Great Depression.
Mm.
And what's funny is that they are all super credible as well because all of their past predictions have come true.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's like, what the freak is going on?
What do we do? Can we have a happy medium, I guess? I mean, it's not great right now, but it's...
Can we just stop everything? Like, so anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of go through his 5 points if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
And, kind of the basic premise of the article was, here's what's happening in the Magic the Gathering financial world,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And talking about how speculators have been hurt because of the drastic price decreases in the majority of cards recently.
Yeah.
So the first reason that the author gives is basically just because of the broader economy.
Oh, yeah, sure. Less money.
There was, just like in crypto, when COVID started and stimulus checks came out and the government was printing oodles of money,
Yeah.
prices for everything went up because everyone was buying stuff.
Yep.
right? And so there was a big spike in demand for all these things because people had excess income.
Money.
And so then after that, now the excess income has come crashing down, and so those prices have also re-stabilized, so to speak, and come down further than what they were originally.
And people have less money for hobbies now overall.
Correct.
So it's
So that's the main. That's the number one point that he makes, and I like
that's hard to refute.
That's just a thing.
Yeah,
like that just makes sense,
makes
right?
sense.
His second point, he talks about the rampant reprints that Wizards of the Coast has been, delivering to the market. He says, I'll just read a quote here. He says, "Notice how Wizards," referring to Wizards of the Coast, has been including bonus sheets in many newer sets. As a Magic boomer, I remember the first time a set had a true bonus sheet way back in Time Spiral with time-shifted cards that were basically the only instance of the trend between 1993 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Then, beginning in 2021, these began popping up left and right."
Yeah, that's true. The bonus sheets are the ones like Ixalon now has the Jurassic Park cards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Eldraine had all the old enchantments, which were pretty cool. Brothers War had the old artifacts. Strixhaven had old instants and sorceries. So it's like, they'll just throw in the bonus sheet in normal booster packs. It's not even like a collector only thing.
Yeah.
It's anybody can just get they touted it as like booster fun. Because you're like, oh wow, I opened an extra random card that I wasn't expecting from this set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I mean, I wasn't actually playing during Time Spiral, but the time shifted cards back then were pretty neat. They were actually just brand new cards that they threw in on this bonus sheet that had like weird, wacky designs that Wizards didn't want to design a whole set around. They didn't want to balance it. So there's a lot of really unique mechanics on those cards that are like one-offs. Of we've never seen this mechanic or a card anything like it before. It's kind of weird to look at those old time shifted cards. But that's a good point. What was that? 27 years of Magic's history
with one sheet,
with one bonus sheet. Now we probably had a dozen
since 2020. Since 2020,
yeah, 2-3 years.
And in the article, and people can read the article. I don't want to spend too much time on it. They can read. He gives some examples of exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
For example, I'll just use one of his examples. He talks about doubling season.
Oh yes.
How doubling season at its peak was around $100 a card, and at the time of writing this, it was down 40% due to Commander Masters and Wild of Eldraine bonus sheets.
Yes. Yep.
His third reason for the price craziness or volatility is the so many flavors of packs that exist.
Yeah.
And this goes to a broader topic as well in terms of, so the author goes into detail talking about how he writes about Magic the Gathering. He's a Magic the Gathering professional, right? In one sense of the word.
Not a player, maybe.
But I mean, his life revolves around Magic the Gathering, effectively, totally. Right? And so ostensibly, you should be able to at least keep track of the stuff going on in Magic the Gathering as a Magic the Gathering professional.
Yeah.
If a professional can't, how does Wizards of the Coast expect a consumer who has a normal day job, a family, or whatever, right?
Their average fan.
And so he goes into talking about how when he was growing up, again, he's calling himself a Magic boomer. There was booster packs and then booster draft boxes.
And boxes of booster packs.
And then you could buy the precons. And
and then those the Commander precons didn't come out till 2012. And then occasionally they had random supplemental products that we could probably call precons, but they were dual decks was a popular one. There was 2 decks you'd play against each other.
But those
or intro decks for new players.
Yeah. And he says those 3 things by themselves, because a booster pack, a draft booster box is just a bunch of those packs.
It's a bunch of packs.
It's just a bunch of packs.
That's what stores get, and they sell you individual packs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's whatever, right? This makes sense.
That's how I remember it from my childhood too. Honestly.
And then you have these supplemental things where it's the pre-constructed decks that
Hey, I want to get my friend into the game. Here's a $10 deck.
That makes 100% sense as well. But now he goes into the list of new types of things, and he says nowadays each new premiere set launches with so many flavors and variations that it's impossible to keep up with them all. When I search the Lost Caverns of Ixalon sealed product on TCG Player, I find overwhelming number of a bundle, a gift bundle, commander decks, collector boosters, pre-release packs, set boosters, draft booster packs, and everything else under the sun.
Jeez.
And he says, he goes on to say, all of these things suppress prices for two reasons. One, way more supply.
Yeah.
Because there's way more variation in how you get your supply. And two, overwhelming amounts of supply.
Yep.
And not even overwhelming amounts of the numerical value of like, oh, there's X amount of cards now being printed. But just the overwhelming nature of like, hey, I want to buy a pack from Ixalon. Great. What do I buy?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to like go do here?
Or because stores have to offload things. They want to you want to go buy a draft booster pack, but all they have are set boosters and collector boosters left or whatever. You like because and at their store those are the ones that sell more or something. It's wild.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, it's like, can I get a booster pack? Yeah, we have booster packs.
And
there you go.
And he does a really fun thing, and people can read the article and see this. But he shows. So this is the paragraph that I read, and then he shows every single. This is all only Ixalon products, and they're individual products.
All just.
It's crazy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 different products for just Ixalon.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to keep track of that? Anyway.
I'll pause. Maybe this is a whole topic for another day as I get closer to it. But the next Magic the Gathering set that comes out next year, Q1 next year, they're fixing it, Steven. They're going down to 8 products. They're getting rid of draft boosters.
Wait, they're getting rid of draft boosters?
They're combining draft boosters and set boosters into one. They're calling them play boosters now.
So what was the difference between a draft booster and a set booster anyway?
Set booster, in theory, has more value, and it's not designed to be drafted. So set boosters have like a theme generally. Like maybe it'll be like, some of the cards might be somewhat aligned, like they're all the same color or the same strategy or whatever. That doesn't jive in a draft because you need the true randomness.
Yeah.
So they're getting rid of that and combining it again, but still keeping the random chance value rares. Because a draft booster always has 1 rare. Set boosters could have 1 to 4 rares. You're never going to get 4 rares, but maybe you get 2 if you're lucky. So that's what they're claiming. They're like, people weren't buying draft boosters, but we want to keep draft alive, so we're combining the 2 now. And meaning at the same price as the set boosters, which is a slightly premium price. And so the price of draft increases if you still want to play draft. And I still don't think it's going to be balanced because somebody's still going to open just these cracked boosters with way too many rares for a draft. And that's, again, we could go off in the weeds probably on that topic another day. It's come January when the next set rolls out, and that'll be big news.
Interesting. Well, I don't know that. I don't have an opinion about that right now, at least.
But I'm just saying, Wizards, they're simplifying it.
Yeah. So the last thing that he goes in to talk about before the summary of his, the last one is like a summary and a point that he makes, but whatever. The last main point, I suppose, is that he gets really onto the super duper mythic secret foil rares.
Oh yeah, okay.
And
what do they call those? Yeah, I forget the actual official name, but
so let me see if I can see it here.
The special treatments, I think they're called.
Yeah, I think so. So he goes, when he started playing, there was only 3 rarities. There was
Mhm.
common, uncommon, and rare.
It.
Both in regular printing and with foil treatment.
Correct. Yep.
Now, there is the introduction of mythic rare,
Yeah.
etched foils, extended arts, borderless, showcase, serialized. So there's 6 new different types of
Yeah.
rarities.
Yeah, well, and even in those, for each set, it
You can
seems like
have serialized foiled, serialized unfoiled,
Uh-huh.
right?
they can have the showcase foil. I know, for instance, the Phyrexian set had like the showcase oil slick. The foil was slightly different on that one than a normal foil, even. So that was
Yeah.
they combined 2 of those. Like,
So he this is similar to his last point as well, where he's talking about the health of the secondary market, obviously, right?
yeah.
He's saying just as these packs and these products from Wizards of the Coast are so confusing, no one knows what the freak is going on.
Yeah.
The same thing happens on the individual card level. That's his point here, right?
Okay.
He says, I used to be able to go and type in a 1 card.
Yeah.
And on TCG Player, 1 or 2 versions of that card would show up. It was either the regular or the foiled version.
If a foiled,
if it existed, right? Or it was just the 1 card. And now he gives an example here.
I'm sure. Yeah, he's got a screenshot of like,
let's see,
like 15 different versions of a card.
Yeah. So he gives an example. Where is his example? Oh, he says, when I search for an old reserved card list on TCG Player, I find exactly 1 match.
Yeah.
Because there's only one of it, right?
That's true. Yep.
This makes the process of finding the card I'm looking for straightforward. Now, if I'm searching for a new card on TCG Player, I'm confused by all the matches for the same exact card that all share different prices. He gives the example of Virtue of Persistence, which looks like a Strixhaven card.
It sounds about right, yeah.
He says, one of the prices is $17. A card that looks exactly the same is $12. One that looks a little bit older is $10. And then there's a $7 one. And he goes on to say, like, what the, like,
why? What?
How am I supposed to, as a Magic the Gathering player, know which one of these is, like, the best? Like, what do I care, first of all?
Yeah.
And if you're a speculator, someone who's, like, trying to invest in Magic cards in some sense, which one do you buy? Because the demand for the lower priced one is it's not going to be inherent based off of the value of the card in a game, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be based off of, now there's a sub market for that card, right?
Yes.
It's not a one unit that's traveling along this value train. It's multiple units aggregating themselves together to determine the value of the overall card.
And it's all perceived value. Like, it's all opinion on all the different treatments anyway. Like, whereas back in the day, a card's value was what is it worth? Like,
exactly.
Now it's just like, oh, well, a lot of people like this one because it looks cooler.
Well, but if you're a speculator, and this is what I was thinking of, if you're a speculator and there's 4 different prices for the same exact card, which one do you buy? Do you buy the high priced one, expecting people to, it's a foil or whatever, it's going to go up because it's the highest tier? Well, but if that one goes up, people are going to buy the lower tier one.
Yeah.
Because if like for me, for example, if I went out to
you're a normal player.
I'm a normal player. if I'm going to put a card in a deck, I don't necessarily need it to be a foil. I just want the card for its functionality.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go buy the cheapest one that I can get. And if, let's say 50% of the people on the market do that, that card's going to go up in price before the other one's going to go up in price.
Yeah.
The expensive one's price is going to stay the same or go down.
Yeah.
The cheaper card is going to
slowly go up,
overpass it.
Yeah.
So it's like, which one do you, if you're a speculator or an investor?
That's wild.
And some people can make the claims falsely, I think, because everyone should be able to do what they want, right? That it's a game, you shouldn't be investing in a game, and to that I say, take a chill.
Yeah, no, it's as we mentioned at the start, it's a hobby. Not everyone invests in hobbies, but you can basically invest in any hobby. Like, it's a pretty normal thing.
Yeah. And most of the time, values go not up, but it's a reasonable store of value for the most part. If the overall economy doesn't crash.
Well, and so even if you're not an investor, if you're just a normal hobbyist, a normal player, you just get caught in the crossfire of like, I just want to play the game, please.
Mhm.
But then the markets, the Magic the Gathering market is just all up and down, all over the place. You can't find the right product that you want to buy, or you can't find the card at a good price. You can't even find the right card because there's too many versions. You end up buying the $20 version when you only wanted the $5 version, but you couldn't find it. Like
Mhm.
the players get shafted. It's all too confusing.
Yeah. So I do think that, and when I was reading this, I was trying to formulate my thoughts on it because I knew I kind of wanted to ask you about it once I started reading it.
Yeah.
My thought with the specials and stuff like that, the special printings of cards, is that it makes sense if you're a collector to have those things,
Yeah.
and maybe Wizards needs to make them a little bit more collectible,
More. Okay. Yeah.
meaning probably print less of them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which would drive the price up. Well, not really, actually. It would drive the secondary market price up, but not like consistently, because the only people who would be buying it at that point are people who want the card
Yeah.
as a collection item, not as a investment piece, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the regular printings of the card can be the investment piece.
And those can be low, affordable,
Exactly.
and more predictable for investors. Yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of my thought process. If Wizards of the Coast wanted to fix that,
Yeah, if they wanted to have a say in that, but
I don't know if they do. I don't know
Probably
if they
not.
care. It's kind of I think we've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, that Wizards of the Coast might be making poor business decisions. They're making, and I think 90% of companies do this after they get to a certain point. They stop making decisions based off of how they want their fans
yeah,
and their customers to feel or react, and base everything off of bottom line.
The money.
Right?
the money coming in looks good. Let's keep doing it.
I mean, Wizards of the Coast has made oodles of money
Mhm.
in the past years. They've released so many sets, but, you know, there's going to come a point where burnout happens.
Totally.
You're not going to, like, oh, yeah, this year, for example, right? Oh, Lord of the Rings Commander Precon.
Yeah.
Warhammer, I guess that was technically last year.
Yeah.
Commander Precon, Doctor Who Commander Precon. All of these different secret layers and whatever stuff, all this product is great if you're trying to push, if you're trying to deliver a good product,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're only delivering that product because it's helping your bottom line and you're just trying to force it over and over and over again on your customer, eventually there's going to be a point where this snowball that you've created of content effectively has to slow down and come to a nice slow halt, and then your snowball gets smaller, and then you find a nice equilibrium balance, or it just crashes and burns.
Yeah, it just rolls off the mountain.
And I'm thinking that if Wizards of the Coast doesn't start shaving off some of their content forcing,
Mm-hmm.
that they're gonna kind of crash and burn.
Yeah. On a side note, the other half of Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons, I haven't followed many of their new releases, but their latest one is it's another module, another book that's supposed to be a continuation of the Lost Mines of Phandelver, which was like the first starter set with D&D 5th edition. Very first starter edition, you play from like levels 1 to 5. I love that adventure, super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely run it with you guys before.
Yeah.
And so they released a book that was supposed to have it from level 1 to 12. So they somewhat, in theory, it was advertised as like somewhat rehashed the level 1 to 5 part with like a little bit extra stuff and some cooler art or whatever.
Sure.
Updated some of the rules, not the rules but the wording to make things more clear. And then they like extended the adventure, add on some new content, and tie the whole thing together. I was like, wow, this sounds awesome. Like, I'd really enjoy that because I like that adventure. So even though I haven't followed D&D much lately in their new releases, I'm like, this seems like a product for me. I'd enjoy that. And then our guest Colin from a couple weeks ago got it, and he read through it and told me, he's like, it's garbage. It's not worth it.
Really?
The level 1 to 5 is like a direct reprint. They didn't change anything about that. The rest, the second half of the book, 5 to 12, has nothing to do with the first half. Even though that's how it's advertised, it's totally unrelated. They just like had content that they just wanted to shove out the door. They're like, throw it together in a book and sell it. Like, it's lazy. It's extremely lazy, and I was very disappointed by it.
Yeah.
Because that seems like, that would have been a great product for me, and I almost got scammed into buying it.
I feel this way with many companies right now,
Mm-hmm.
and not just in the entertainment space, but also in the product category as well.
Yeah,
Gun companies do this all the time recently. They release a new gun.
new thing. Yeah,
It's the same thing.
it's lazy.
It's the same thing, and they've slapped a different coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
And they're going to charge $300 more for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Why?
like I don't understand. Like, if you are, like, Apple is the opposite of this, in my opinion. Some people do complain that they nickel and dime their customers for all these stupid little accoutrements,
Oh, the little,
and whatnot. But, like, they have, like, one phone.
Yeah.
Like, they have one new model of phone. And that's it. And they release one new iPad. And it's like, there's improvements on it that make it worth it to some people.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there's like reasonable improvements to warrant a new phone.
Well, yeah, or it's like, here's the iPhone 27 or whatever. Here's the iPhone 27 XL. Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that, where it's like, it's the same phone, just bigger. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Bigger. It's got a slightly better camera than last time. Cool.
So, like, things like that, where, like, they really understand, like, and they understand that phones are, like, much more long lasting than,
Yes.
There
are tons of people who, they'll buy every new generation, but
Yeah.
if you like skip a few generations, that camera that's slightly better than last gen is pretty good than yours from 3 gen ago.
Yeah, like, I have a Note 20,
Yeah,
which was 2019 is when I got it.
Sounds right.
And 2020? 2000, no, 2000, I don't remember.
I remember.
19 or 20. And it's still functioning fantastically, but I'm sure that the next phone I get from Samsung is going to be way better.
Way better, yeah.
Because it's been 4 or 5 years since I'll probably have this for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Before it eventually just
dies. Yeah.
Because I run all my phones to death.
Mm-hmm.
My last phone before this one had a 4-hour battery life.
Solid.
It was useless.
Constantly charging it. Yeah, that is pretty useless.
I would turn it off halfway through the school day because I couldn't make it all the way through. Anyway, things like that. Yeah, like gun companies do the same thing where they just will, release the same gun, and usually it's the same crappy gun. They haven't fixed anything if they had problems with it. And they just slap a new coat of paint on it, and it's just lipstick on a pig.
I'm sure it's not a new thing for any of the, business-related historians out there, but we're just calling it out. Seems a little...
Seems dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's got to stop at some point,
Seems like a scam. Customers are getting tired.
Yeah. Another thing, this is kind of transitioning pretty well into the next topic that I kind of wanted to chat about.
Yeah.
Is I saw an ad the other day for Netflix's live adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Avatar: The Last Airbender,
which is like one of the greatest TV shows ever made.
That's in Steven's top 2 anime.
That is probably Steven's top 1 anime. That was so good.
It's in your top 2.
It's definitely in my top 2
anime that Steven has ever seen of all time.
I really, really enjoyed Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It's a solid show. There's no complaints about it.
And it's so wholesome.
It is.
Like, there's nothing, like, bad about the show.
I would probably never find another, like... I'd have to go back and check the rating, but it came out on Nickelodeon. It's probably like Y7 or whatever. You'll never find another Y7 show that, like, you'll enjoy. Like,
no.
It was very, very well made.
They did so well on it. And Ryan and I watched it together.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was kind of our show. We would watch 2 or 3 episodes every night before going to bed.
Yeah.
And just, it was great.
It's fun.
A few years ago, 15 years ago now? What, 2000? No, more than that probably. 2007?
7, maybe
8? Around then, they tried coming out with the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. You remember that?
yes. Oh, I thought we were just going to pretend that didn't exist.
Well, it's relevant to this conversation because it was an attempt at a live adaptation.
Yeah,
right?
it was a live action movie of just like the first third of the series.
And everyone was super pissed. Well, I'm sure that what they thought they were going to do is they're going to come out with 3 movies because there's 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was the first season, the second season, the third season.
Right.
I'm sure that's what they thought they were going to do.
Yeah, they were going to make enough money to fund the next movie.
Oof, did they make a mistake?
That was bad.
It was a horrible movie.
Yeah. As far as adaptations go, it's probably in the top 2 of the worst adaptations ever.
That and Aragon.
Yeah, there you go.
But Netflix is coming out with a live adaptation of just the series.
Yeah, just a series.
Have you seen the trailer?
I did watch the trailer.
Okay, I watched the trailer, and then I watched a video from someone who had the trailer on top and the show on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Netflix, to their credit, learned from past adaptation mistakes, and it literally is a carbon copy.
It looks like they watched the show, actually.
It doesn't look like they just watched the show. It literally looks like they ripped the show off and just like put real people into it and made it pretty.
Yeah.
Like there was one where they were flying over a volcanic island. I don't remember what the name of the island is or anything like that. It's been a while since I watched the show. And I don't think it was like of significant note, this island, right?
We're going to fact check you later, but yeah, go
on. Might be a very significant one. It might be the Fire Nation Island. I can't remember though. It's like the Crescent Moon one.
Yeah, that's where Roku lived.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it is very important.
Yeah,
it's not the actual Kingdom of Fire Nation. It's just like where Roku lived. That's right.
A random island, yeah.
But it was like a crescent moon and there was a volcano in the middle. And like in the show, it was like, oh, this is kind of a cool shape. Literally, in the new adaptation trailer, they show it.
Moon.
And not only is it like a crescent moon shaped island, they literally like copied the lines of the mountains.
And it's the same camera angle too of them like
exactly the same. Aang comes in flying on his little like air glider thing. The exact same. It is exact.
Yeah.
And if they do that for the rest of the show, they're gonna make so much money.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
And get this, all of the actors, Chinese and Asian.
Yeah, well done. And nobody's going to complain about that?
No one.
About the diversity?
Well, that's a lie. I'm sure someone's going to complain.
Okay, but nobody should complain about that. Makes sense.
And like all the characters, it is a little bit difficult, in my opinion, and I understand this part, to find actors who look enough like the actual characters to match, because like some of those characters are so silly looking.
Yeah.
Like it's very difficult, and I understand that completely. Uncle Iroh, I think they cast that like spot on.
Good, yeah. I haven't seen too much in the trailer as far as like their voices and whatnot.
They didn't say anything at all. Their looks is what I'm kind of.
It was like music, and we saw things in the trailer so far.
Zuko was okay. I didn't love the actor that they've I didn't love the matchup there, but like I said, I'm not mad about it. No, I'm not. Fine. It's fine. It's just I'm excited for it.
It was a big complaint about the last live action movie. It's like the creators didn't even watch the show. I mean, they were pronouncing the names of the characters wrong in the movie. Like, how did this get past screening?
Yeah.
And this looks very promising. Again, like they did the research. Even if it's copy paste, that's fine. The show was so good, it really doesn't need an improvement. It would just be cool to see like basically the live action fights are going to be nice.
And it's going to be dope to have like the firebenders fighting.
Yeah, because it's martial arts basically. It's like watching.
It's martial arts with fireballs. Like Also, I'm interested to see. I don't think we saw anything about not Katara. What's Zuko's sister's name?
Katara. No, Zuko's sister, Azula.
Azula.
She doesn't really come until season 2 of the show anyway.
Yeah,
honestly, they actually gave a brief glimpse of her in the trailer.
Oh, did they? I don't remember that.
Sure.
But I'm interested to see like who they cast for that, because she's like both like she's supposed to be like evil, but also like in the show at least she was like hot.
Yeah,
and like it'll be interesting to see like how they figure that out,
how they play that,
because most of the time they have like you're evil or you're like the good guy and you're hot.
Yeah,
right.
They want the viewers to like the protagonist.
Exactly.
So they look good.
It'll be interesting to see how they do everything like that.
Well, she's on the crazy hot scale. because
She's like 10-10.
she goes crazy,
She like the last couple episodes when she's like,
mad with power.
I don't think this is like spoiler alerts because it's been out for freaking a decade and a half.
Long time.
Like, she just goes insane
Mm-hmm.
and is like doing her blue fire thing and like,
Yeah.
And Zuko beats her, which didn't love that. Just because like
You thought he wasn't good enough?
I thought he was kind of a pussy for the majority of the show.
Yeah, but he figured out the lightning thing.
Yeah, I mean it was cool.
It was cinematic. Yeah, totally.
I mean, I wasn't like didn't hate it, right?
Yeah,
I was just like, he all of a sudden can do this.
Right.
It just seemed a little bit strange.
So it'll be cool. I think it said it was coming out in January or something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty soon.
pretty quick.
So I'm interested to see. I'm hoping that we're kind of turning a corner from crappy adaptations into
good adaptations.
It's like the Witcher season 1
yeah,
was like almost a carbon copy, right?
yeah. I never read the first book, but from everything I heard, yeah,
I mean,
so
and the changes that they might have made,
minimal.
inconsequential.
Yeah,
They might have race swapped a couple people, which whatever.
But keep your eyes out for Avatar: The Last Airbender live action, a Netflix original series.
I might actually get a Netflix subscription to watch it
Yeah,
because I think
If
I don't. My parents
they
don't have
released the whole show
it. Oh yeah.
all at once, so you can subscribe for a month, watch it, and then drop.
Here's your next topic.
Yes.
Introduce it.
Wow, conveniently speaking about
Segue.
shows that drop the whole season all at once. Invincible is another good show we've talked about here on the podcast.
Definitely recommend if you're over 17.
Yeah,
If you're over 18.
it's an adult animation. Last time, Avatar we talked about is like for kids and adults can enjoy it. Invincible, that's an adult animated show.
100% adult
It
animation.
is a violent anime.
Oh, it is a gory and like
Mhm.
the first episode just goes hard.
Well,
It's 0 to 100 real
It
quick.
shows you. It's like, hey, don't keep watching if you can't handle this on episode 1. Like they.
Yeah.
Season 2 is coming out. Pretty excited for it because they'd been on a hiatus since like COVID, basically. Just took a while to get out, but they went the route of everyone these days. We're gonna release one episode every week for 3 months so we can stay relevant in the media for a longer time. I think that's the only reason is just so you can have headlines every week. Instead of just like, oh, Invincible season 2 came out, here's what we thought, and then people forget about you in a week. You want to stay relevant with the weekly release schedule. I don't know.
I find it very frustrating.
Because there's no reason. It's not live TV. It's not cable TV anymore. They're not recording constantly. They have the whole show already made. Sometimes on these animated shows, they are finishing up some post-production. I've heard a lot of anime, like they'll start releasing the start of the season. And then like they're not totally done with the end of the season. Sure, on animated shows, I guess I understand that because you can do a lot of post production. Live shows definitely have no reason though to do that. Like you should be 100% done, basically.
Yeah.
Or just wait until you're 100% done to release it.
I'd be interested so 2 thoughts. 1, I hate it when they do this.
Yeah.
Because I just want to sit down and I don't want to watch, like, if I'm sitting down on a Sunday afternoon, I've gone to church, come home, had lunch,
Relaxing.
I'm chilling. I've got 7 hours to kill until dinner
Yeah.
with nothing to do. I don't want to spend 1 hour watching one show and then try to find another show to watch for another 5 hours, right? Like, I'd like to sit down and watch 2, 3, maybe 4 episodes of a show.
Yeah.
The only way I can do that is if they release the entirety of the show.
Yeah, you go back and you watch old shows, sure, but
I think this model is now broken. This whole releasing on a schedule thing instead of just releasing it all at once.
I thought COVID would have fixed it because they knew everybody was inside binging.
I would have thought so too. But then you had HBO coming out with like House of the Dragon
Once a
and
week.
Paramount coming out with Halo
Once a week.
and Amazon came out with The Citadel,
Oh yeah, that was their latest one.
which I actually watched. I found that after they had released like 5 out of the 6 episodes or something like that, and I watched it. It was pretty good. It was all right,
Yeah.
like it was worth the binge. But I didn't finish Halo.
Nope.
I didn't finish House of the Dragon.
Nope, nor I. Yep.
And like people said Halo, I don't really care that I didn't finish, but I've thought about going back and watching House of the Dragon because
everyone said the second half was so good.
I thought the first half was okay.
I thought the first half was fine, but
I didn't think it was anything like the third season of Game of Thrones.
I wasn't intrigued enough to make sure, set a schedule. Oh, every day, every week on this day.
People don't sit down on a schedule to watch TV anymore.
No, it's the days of cable are long gone. Our generation does not do that.
No, and I think that during COVID and pre-COVID even, they were releasing series.
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix did this actually. I don't think Netflix is the worst abuser of this yet.
No,
they did it with Stranger Things, which I think was probably a test run for them. But like Peaky Blinders, which is
released the whole season.
They released the whole season.
Yeah.
And so like I was able to just like watch the season.
And then to combine that, I don't know who started this, but they've started doing just, here's part 1 of the season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we'll wait another 6 months and drop part 2 or whatever. Again, I think the only reason for that one has got to be to stay relevant in the media, because why? You're not filming extra in between. Again, you're already done. You already have the whole season, or at least you should already have the whole season. And if you need more time, the post-production to work on the second half, just wait. Wait until you're done before you release something.
Yeah. If this is why we should, create an investment fund and buy all these companies, because my thought is that if you do want to create create relevancy in the media, first of all, you're not going to get it every week. You're going to get it on episode 1, and then maybe episode 2, and maybe episode 3. But then no one's going to give a rip about your show anymore for episodes 4 through 18.
Yeah.
And no, you're not going to get any headlines. Someone's going to write a stupid article saying like, yeah, this episode was okay.
Yeah.
Instead of like someone coming along and saying, this show was fantastic.
Yes.
And there's 2 ways, in my opinion, that you could do this and get like super good articles written about a show. 1, you are allowed to do the 2 seasons, the 2-part seasons, but they have to come out one after another.
Yeah.
Like you, the first of the month, you release part 1.
Sure. Okay.
It's, let's say, 8 episodes.
Oh, 8
right?
episodes. Okay.
No, let's say 5. We'll say 5. 5 episodes. On the end of week 5, week 6, you release the second half.
Oh, okay. Just drop the whole.
Just drop the rest of it.
Yeah. Stop doing the one.
That way, people can do 1 episode a week.
Yeah.
And you just release it right afterwards. That way, you get rid of the excuse of we were working on it post-production. Because it does not take... If you have 5 people working 40 hours a week on the post-production of a 40-minute episode, like within 6 weeks, you should be able to produce 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Or 5 episodes.
Yeah, I'm not in that world.
That's 200 working hours.
I think so.
That's 200 working hours.
And they probably have more than 5 people.
If I spent 200 working hours on anything,
I could get it done.
On a 40-minute thing, yeah. Like I could learn
and then do it.
I could learn how to do it, then do it in 200 working hours
and make it really.
And these are professionals that are supposed to be doing this.
When you put it that way, yeah. For a 40-minute episode, or in some cases, some shows, if they're only like 20, 25 minutes, like, yeah.
And this is for animated shows, obviously, because there are, live action shows, huge crews involved, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Understandable. Yeah. But another thing that I think if a company wanted to be in the headlines for a significant amount of time, if they have a 15-episode series, right? Release an episode a day.
So a day, yeah, you mentioned that before, yeah.
If you released an episode a day for 2 weeks,
you really want to.
I mean, you're gonna at the first release, day 1. Some people, let's say 50% of your target audience are gonna watch the show.
Yep.
Day 2, they're gonna watch it again, if day 1 was good.
Yeah.
Day 3, same thing. Day 4, same thing. And then, you know what's going to happen on day 10? Is every person in that 50% group, if the show is good, is going to be like, you need to watch this freaking show.
Yeah, that spreads word of mouth. That's a really good, like the daily cycle is really good for a lot of social media, YouTubers, journalists, like writing articles.
And you just hype up every single day on your social medias, your YouTube. You drop a trailer in the morning.
That's even better, yeah.
Like you drop like day one, drop a trailer, or you've had your media team promoting this, like this show is dropping today.
Yeah.
The next day, in the morning, early in the morning, you drop a trailer, just a 2-second,
little
teaser of episode 2, and it's like it just is building off of like something happened in episode 1, cliffhanger. Episode 2, something completely unrelated to the cliffhanger but crazy that's going to happen in the episode.
Different secondary.
Like I'll use what's the show called? The Mandalorian for an example, right?
Okay.
First episode, he's going bounty hunting, right? If they were going to do this system, this is how I would think it would work really well. You have episode 1. Episode 1 is great, whatever, right? Episode 2, the teaser trailer in the morning, literally a 15-second, 10-second clip of the show. And you could literally just make it him getting shot in the head with a blaster.
Yeah.
If you saw the main character of a TV show from episode 1 or 2
get shot,
and then in the morning you're like scrolling on social media and you're following the Mandalorian account or whatever because you followed it or whatever, and you see that their reel or their story is just a video of him just
on repeat,
blasted in the head with a freaking laser gun. Like you're gonna like, oh, okay, well I have
tune in tonight.
It's like episode 2, date, time.
Totally.
It's like
that sounds pretty good. You have a whole campaign for it instead of just like And
then what happens is 50% of your target audience, plus probably a good percentage of not your target audience, if it's a good show,
if you advertise well enough,
is going to come out and say, hey, everyone who's not watching this show, you should probably watch this freaking show because it's amazing.
I agree.
And then they have the people who wanted to wait, like myself, to binge watch it, already have, if it's day 10 hours-ish of content to watch prior to the remaining episodes. And so they're going to finish the show out with you.
On the weekend, they have time to catch up, yeah.
And so you've got 2 to 3 weeks of relevance, almost a month of relevancy, which in today's day and age is a huge amount.
Yeah, you got to get the social media attention span.
And if you got 3 weeks, let's even just say 2 weeks. I mean, the Marvels came out 1 week ago, and I haven't heard a single thing about it since last Saturday when it came out.
That's pretty bad. That's a good point.
Like, if you want a show to catch the zeitgeist of your target audience or of the community or of the whatever, I mean,
gotta stay relevant.
I honestly think that, and I wouldn't be mad if they did that either. If they released an episode a day, like,
fine.
There are YouTubers who release an episode of a thing they do a day.
Yeah, with a decent production.
It's 20 minutes, but it's every single day.
Absolutely. There's no excuse.
There's no excuse, especially for these big multi-trillion-dollar companies.
Yeah,
billion-dollar companies that. It's just, I think that if they were able to do that and, put it onto one of the more ubiquitous platforms out there, whether that's Amazon, Netflix, whatever, not make it their own proprietary bullcrap.
No.
I was getting on a soapbox and I completely lost my steam, but what was I going to say?
You had one big point left.
Oh, my thought was, and this is just a thought, I don't know if there's any supporting evidence for this. I haven't thought this thought out as much as my other media.
This is Steven's hot take, but
it's a hot take,
perhaps
but
not backed by data.
I think if there was a movie or a production house that instead of requiring you to subscribe to their entertainment platform, they just sold it direct to you.
Oh, okay.
So, like, for example, what you can do on Amazon, you can buy a movie on Amazon.
You just buy the movie.
You're just owner on your Amazon account, right?
Yeah.
My thought is, like, I'm going to use Paramount because they come to mind first. If Paramount said, hey, we have all this stuff, do you want to buy it? We'll sell you the whole season of Halo for $10. And then you just have access. You only have access to Halo.
Yeah, okay.
but you have that access. Like you buy it once, and
instead of a subscription.
it's like a movie ticket, but you have.
Yeah, compared to a movie ticket, that's an interesting point.
And then you can see exactly what I think it would be beneficial for, and I'm sure that they can do this in other ways, but it'd be beneficial. It would promote companies to invest in good content instead of saying like, oh well, we have a subscription service and you pay us $10 a month.
You got to release a new show every month.
Well, or you have to release a new show, but 99% of those shows are crappy shows.
They're crap, yeah.
Right? And they're written by crappy people.
The subscription model works better for them.
I think this is the problem.
Yeah.
And this is not the topics we wanted to talk about, but it's fine. I think the problem is the subscription model works for an aggregator of shows.
Yeah.
Not for a creator of shows.
Okay.
Netflix, Amazon, HBO. HBO does create their own shows, as does Netflix and Amazon, but they are also the great three aggregators of TV shows. If you want one of your shows to be popular, you put it on one of those three platforms.
Yeah.
These other services, Peacock, Paramount, even Hulu to an extent, Disney Plus. Disney Plus, because they have so much content, could have been viable, I think. Obviously, it's not because they're shutting it down because it's losing them money. So, but Paramount has a lot of movies, but am I going to pay $10 a month to have access to only Paramount movies?
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a Paramount movie that was like so amazing that like Paramount doesn't have the brand.
I think they do Mission Impossible, but I could be wrong on that one. Even I couldn't name one off.
But they don't have the branding that something like Disney does, right?
Yeah,
in order to create a standalone system. And then you get consumer burnout with all of these different subscription services that you have to pay for.
That's a very real thing.
And I think that if they all just... I think one of the best things that they could do, and this is something that I have thought about, is all of these production houses should come together and say, look, we don't get a big enough cut from Amazon or from Netflix or from HBO. Let's just create a fourth one, a fourth stream. Instead of having Peacock and Showtime and Paramount Plus and whatever.
Yeah.
We just all come together and we all just create our own and then split the revenue based off of watch time.
Probably never happened, but it doesn't sound half bad.
I mean, it would be a solution instead of having like 17, and maybe like you would raise their subscription price from like $7 or $10 or whatever to like $15 a month. But you're getting 4 production houses compared to 1.
Yeah, it seems okay. I couldn't foray into all the reasons why that's probably not ever going to happen.
It won't ever happen. You are correct that it will not ever happen because who's going to oversee that?
Yeah.
You would have to create. It would be a mess.
Another company to oversee us. And So
it would like the best system is just go back to Netflix and have Netflix raise their prices so that they can pay movie houses more.
Yeah,
that's like the best course of action in my opinion. But
right. Anyway,
you wanted to talk about Reacher?
Yeah, I was just going to mention as well, since I was thinking about Invincible Season 2 coming out, also on Amazon Prime. Keep your eyes out for Reacher. Highly recommend.
Are they releasing it episodically?
I don't know. I didn't see that advertised in the trailers, so I don't think so. I think they're probably going to drop the whole season. It's supposed to come out in December here in a couple weeks. So Season 2 is. Season 1's already out. It's fantastic. It's a really good show.
It's quite a good show.
I find it extremely well written, and because I rewatched episode 1 recently, just this past week, I find it's one of those shows that I feel like treats its audience like they're smart, and I enjoy it.
Oh, for sure.
That's why I enjoy the heck out of Death Note.
Yeah,
because the writers are smart and they make the audience feel smart. Like they don't assume you're dumb. I'll come out and say it. A lot of like sitcoms to come out of the 90s, they just like for the average dumb American was what they thought in their eyes. Like Simpsons, whatever. That's a pretty easy example. And so I, as an intellectual, I prefer intellectual media. But even just non-jokingly, it's like, yeah, it feels smartly written. It's a good show. It's got some good action. There's no message in it whatsoever. It's just telling a good story about a good guy, a good protagonist. So seeing the trailers for season 2, it looks pretty rad. I don't know if you'd seen.
I hadn't seen the trailer yet. I watched episode 1 or season 1.
It looks a little different in terms of story beat from season 1, but I'm all for it because it still follows the same main character. He's just in different scenarios, different characters. Because I believe they follow a book, maybe a book series.
I think he's a character in a book series, Jack Reacher is.
Yeah. So I think it's probably just like, oh, it's another book, more stories about the character.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
But I'm looking forward to it. So
I didn't really, when I watched that show, I didn't really create an attachment with any of the characters other than Jack Reacher.
Other than the main character, yeah. I thought the supporting cast was all right, but
no, the supporting cast was fantastic for sure. But they didn't have the fleshed out background or mysterio behind them, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So anyway, they had good backstories in general, but nothing like that was intriguing. Like one was divorced, and one had her dad killed. Like, like good backstory, not like earth shattering, groundbreaking.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued to see more of the character. I think I'll enjoy season 2. I'm pretty comfortable saying that. So
yeah,
we'll probably end up talking about it again. Yeah. Hopefully, if they drop the whole season all at once.
Yeah, if they do, I will watch it,
and then
for
we'll
sure.
Binge it.
I also just don't have. I just don't find time anymore to watch TV shows.
No, you're telling me. I even have the second monitor up on my computer, but sometimes I can't split my attention.
I just watch YouTube too much.
Yeah.
I have so many interesting things on YouTube that I like to watch that it's hard to, you know.
It's a good source of content.
Yeah. Well, let's finish this episode off, as is almost tradition at this point, with
Have you heard of this game called
Have you heard of
Gathering?
this? It's quite funny.
We like to talk about it sometimes.
We like to talk about it occasionally, that's for sure.
Yep. It should be out
today. A week ago.
A week ago when you're watching the episode.
Ooh, that's strange still.
Yeah. The future.
We get Ixalon and the lost caverns of Ixalon.
I finally figured out the name. It's the Lost Caverns of Ixalon. A couple weeks ago when we were talking about it, I was like, out of a journey to the center of Earth or something.
Well, there's a couple cards that are also really funny that are very like, they could have almost gotten like an Indiana Jones secret layer to them. Like there's like a runaway boulder.
Yes.
Which is like just episode 1 of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like the first thing you ever see Indiana Jones doing.
Pretty clear, obvious references.
But
there's a lot of characters that have just like Spanish names or just like straight up look like the ziggurats, like from Inca, Mayan and Incan, like oh, okay. So it looks to be a decent set. The commander decks are they're all creature themed, which is always a fun time, even if it's not the most powerful theme in a commander game. It's always fun. So they have dinosaurs, merfolk, vampires, and pirates.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good combination to fight against each other.
Yeah. I have 5 cards that I kind of wanted to touch on. If you do you have any that you wanted to?
Yeah, I pulled a couple of the commanders. I thought would be neat. So I have probably I have like 2 or 3. I'd be intrigued to talk about. Yeah.
You want to go over a couple of yours and then we can go with mine? And
sure. Yeah.
What are the name of these? So there's 4 commanders, 3 commanders. 2
yeah,
commanders?
I'll do. I'll talk about 4.
Okay.
Yeah, probably my 4 favorites. So this is one from this is the face commander of the dinosaur deck. Looked pretty sick. I don't have this color combination. I was tempted to maybe build a list around this guy, except I think it'd be pretty similar to one of my other decks, and because I'll explain in a second. He's Naya. He's red, green, white, like a 5 for a 4/4 dinosaur.
What is the name of the card? Sorry.
Pantlaza.
Oh, this is like the Kukulkan looking one.
It kind of looks like a little raptor thing.
Oh, maybe not then.
Yeah. Pantlaza. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. And I know Spanish.
Interesting.
But
I didn't see this one.
Pantlaza Sun Favored. Yeah, he's straight up dinosaur theme. It's a pretty obvious build around. But I want to talk about it because it's got the new keyword. Whenever he or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X. Where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. And discover is the new keyword that balances Cascade. So you discover X. It's Cascade with a number. You exile cards from the top of your library until you hit a non-land card with that mana value or less. So like discover 4, because this guy has 4 toughness. You go find a 4-cost spell or less you just from the top of your library. And then you can either cast it for free right then or put it into your hand, which is the other big change from Cascade. Cascade will just flip until you find the next thing that costs less than the mana value of the spell. But this one is like specifically discover with a number. And then you can put it into your hand, which is also cool because maybe you don't always want to cast the spell. So there's a lot of shenanigans you can do with that because discover counts as casting from exile. Which
interesting.
has a lot of synergies.
Why does it count from casting from exile?
Because you exile cards from the top of your library.
Oh, it's being exiled first, and then you
cast them from there, and then those cards go back in your library.
Interesting.
So it changes zones first. Casting from your library is relatively rare in Magic. The rules.
So is it any permanent or any spell?
It's a non-land card. So
non-land.
Any spell.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I feel there was a commander.
There's a lot of synergies for that.
Yeah, there wasn't. I think I showed you one. I think I have him actually pulled up. The elephant guy that I sent you is whenever you cast a spell from exile, you do something.
Yeah.
We'll bring him up.
We'll come to it
real quick.
There's a lot of synergies to that. I just already have a red-green deck that was the pre-con from Baldur's Gate, I think, last year. He's red-green. Whenever you cast a spell or play a land from exile, you get a 2/2 wolf.
That's right. Yeah,
there's a lot of Cascade in that deck. I need to look and update. Maybe I want some of this Discover to put in that deck as well.
For sure.
Even in this set, they did. There's some other random card that's like whenever you discover an additional time. So
that's broken.
Yes, yeah. So there's and it's dinosaur themed. That's always fun. So seems like a fun commander. Pretty good deck. I think would be neat. I think the precon plays pretty well. From like one video I saw reviewing it, but even just building him on your own, I think would be strong.
Who's your next one?
The other one that I kind of like is the alternate commander from that deck, because this one is actually a brand new strategy that has never really had a good commander. Her name is Waita Trainer Prodigy. She's 3 for a 1/5. Same, it's a red, green, white. 3 for a 1/5 haste, but then she has a tap ability. So it's 2 and a green, and tap her. Target creature you control fights another target creature, but it costs 2 less to activate if it targets 2 creatures you control. You can make 2 of your own creatures fight for 1 mana. Okay, last ability.
Interesting.
If a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
Oh.
So
for 1 mana, you can get a couple of triggered abilities on your...
yes, for the
trigger
damage triggers on your own guys. So it's like a self-fighting deck. But also you can fight opponents still.
Yeah.
There's a common from the first Ixalon. There was a common keyword called Enrage, where it's whenever this creature is dealt damage, do a thing. So you can trigger your own Enrage stuff.
Or what's the Altasaur?
Yeah, Apex Altasaur.
Apex Altasaur.
Whenever he's dealt damage, he fights a permanent.
Yeah.
He fights another creature. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a unique build around. We haven't had like an Enrage commander before, really.
I always thought that giving Apex Altasaur indestructible for 1 turn
it's a board wipe.
Would be hilarious.
Yeah, he fights everything.
Isn't it a May?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So you just one-sided board wipe.
Mm-hmm.
Expensive, but
expensive. Very cool though.
Anyway,
yeah,
that is a very cool. That actually brings up like a lot of like crazy strategies you could pull off with that.
It gets you thinking. The probably the most common Enrage guy, just because he's a combo card in Commander, is called Polyraptor. It's Enrage, so whenever he takes damage, he makes a copy of Polyraptor. And he's just like a 7 for a 5/5 with that effect. And so there's ways you can combo. It's really common, actually.
Wait, if you had him and Apex Altasaur, and gave Apex Allosaur indestructible, with that commander out, you would have infinite.
Yes, that's the thing. The combos are always infinite.
Infinite raptors.
Yeah, infinite Polyraptors. The problem lies is that Polyraptors Enrage isn't a May. So
it is you
have to make a copy of them, and so if you combo it with several other cards that don't say May, you could accidentally draw out the game because it's an infinite loop that you can't stop.
Interesting.
You win, but it's up to your play group if they consider that you winning, really, because technically it's you draw the game out. That's in the official rules. Like, you create an infinite loop that can't be interacted with.
Interesting.
So it's like
the game could never end.
Yeah. For instance, there's a common one that's actually another dinosaur. So whenever another creature enters the battlefield, the dinosaur deals 1 damage to it or something. So in theory, it kills all the 1/1s. But if you have that dinosaur, you play your Polyraptor, he enters, this dinosaur hits him for 1, you make another Polyraptor, that Polyraptor gets hit for 1, makes another Polyraptor, and it's infinite loop.
I mean, if we were going to play if someone did that and we were playing like that, I would just tell them, like, yeah, you can have.
Yeah, sure.
You can just, either we're just like, okay.
If they play it all from hand, it's those two is technically a 2-card combo, but it's like 9 mana.
So what happens though if like you play a if it's dealt damage, it creates a copy.
Mm-hmm.
So like you would have to like cancel the cast trigger of that Polyraptor.
Basically.
Because you couldn't even like board wipe necessarily unless it was an exile.
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because most board wipes are like deal 13
damage, or destroy.
Yeah, and destroy counts as damage, right? No, it doesn't. Okay, so you could destroy, but then it wouldn't even have a chance.
Before the loop, board wipes are sorcery speed.
Yeah, it wouldn't even happen.
You need instant speed removal, but also depending on your type of removal, if they're already in the loop, they're in the loop.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So,
wow, fascinating.
Yeah. So yeah, this commander facilitates that type of thinking with other similar effects. The Enrage.
Yeah.
Deal damage to your own creatures, make them fight each other, make them fight your opponent's stuff. It's neat.
Interesting.
It's new.
Interesting.
You want to talk about a couple of yours?
Sure. I've got one that I thought was an interesting. I've got a couple artifacts because there was quite a few artifacts that I thought were interesting. Artifacts and enchantments that were interesting.
Okay.
Let me pull up. Yeah, this one's kind of a cool artifact. It's Ixalon, the Great Door.
The Great Door.
It's a 3-mana legendary artifact. It flips over. And it has the front side abilities are you can tap it, draw a card, then discard a card.
Okay,
seems reasonable.
It's fine.
Extra little card draw go through your deck a little bit every turn, or
fill your graveyard.
Exactly. Well, that it wants to fill your graveyard.
It wants to fill the graveyard.
So you can pay 4, and tap the Great Door, transform it, and you can only activate that if there are 4 or more permanent types in cards in your graveyard.
Okay, yeah.
And then the flip side is called the Core, and it is a legendary land, and it is tap. Add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard.
Oh, okay. It goes from
type to permanents.
To just number of permanents.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, 1 mana for each permanent. That's good.
And
that's colorless on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Colorless. And you can add X mana of any one color. So
that's solid. Not making comparisons to Gaia's Cradle, but Gaia's Cradle is the most powerful land in Magic the Gathering, basically. It adds 1 green mana for each creature you control.
But
it's just
they reprinted it.
It's on the reserve list, but they had a similar effect.
Growing Rights of Itlimoc.
Yes.
Is a legendary enchantment that this is one of the other cards I wanted to bring up, actually.
Mm-hmm.
When Growing Rights of Itlimoc enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform Rights of Itlimoc.
Yeah.
And then it transforms into Itlimoc, Cradle of the Sun, and it taps for 1 green, or add 1 green mana for each creature you control.
Yeah, okay, so it's the effect of Guided
It's a
Cradle.
legendary.
You just gotta jump through some hoops.
I mean, but it's a 3 mana card. If you play it turn 4 and you have 4 creatures out, it's like
I say Gaia's Cradle is the best land in Commander, but that's because for CEDH, the game's over by turn 4. So
that's fair.
Yeah, but that is a strong effect in it. The vast majority of Commander games.
Yeah,
I do 100% agree.
Let me go through my last artifact, and then we can go back to your other 2, and then I have 2 more as well.
Sweet.
Got this last artifact. It's a 1 mana or legendary artifact. The Millennium Calendar.
The Millennium Falcon?
Millennium Falcon. It actually kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon if you look at it. The Millennium Calendar.
This one is funny. I do remember this one.
This one is interesting to me.
Yeah, this is cool.
So whenever you untap 1 or more permanents during your untap step, put that many time counters on the Millennium Calendar on the card. Then you can pay 2 and tap it to double the number of time counters on the Millennium Calendar.
Yep.
Then, when there are 1,000 or more time counters on the Millennium Calendar, sacrifice it, and each opponent loses 1,000 life.
Yeah. I love it. It's the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
As a card.
Yeah. It's so fascinating to me.
When that card was spoiled, I did the deep dive on the Reddit threads. Everybody did the math on it. They're like, here's all. I mean, the easy math is just double it each turn, and it's 6 turns. I think it puts you on a 6-turn clock. Then also but you can modify it with this and this, and but this one's not viable. Actually, that's irrelevant. And boop-a-doo. And they were getting really into the weeds of how do we get to 1,000 counters on this artifact?
Well, but what's crazy is my thought is you could play this turn 1, and then the next turn it counts itself as a permanent.
Yep. And you have to tap
and
it.
lands are permanents. Right?
Yeah.
And so turn 2, you're getting 2 counters on it already. And now you can't tap it on turn 2, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, so you wouldn't actually untap it on turn 2. But turn 3 you could. Or turn 2, actually, you could probably tap it.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. I thought it was quite an interesting...
You want to untap things, put counters on it. It starts out at 1.
Yeah.
And then you're like, we got to get to 1,000.
But,
it's a fun strategy.
It's interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah. So. It doesn't beat life gain decks, though. If they have some life gain combo.
I mean, if they can get infinite life, then yeah.
The average life gain deck is just I have 160 health. It's normally pretty good.
Till it does 1,000 damage to you, then you're like...
Till you take 1,000 damage. One of the other neat commanders I wanted to talk about, I don't think he's extremely powerful, but it's a cool vampire pirate theme. He's from the pirate deck, not the vampire deck. I think there was some
cross-pollination there.
Yeah, he's an intern or something. He's cross-training with the pirates. But again, it's kind of a cool concept. I don't know if it's 100% unique, but maybe in these color combos it might actually be. The pirates are Grixis, so blue, black, red. So he's 4 for 4/3 legendary vampire pirate.
What was his name?
Don Andres, the renegade. He's got a conquistador helmet on. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2 menace, death touch, and is a pirate. Yeah. So that's the strongest. And then the insult to injury is whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, you create 2 tapped treasure tokens.
Interesting.
So it's a pirate, and your whole strategy is around stealing your opponent's stuff and plundering.
Interesting. I kind of like that.
It's cool. Red has a lot of effects that steal your opponent's creatures for a turn.
Yeah.
And I think we've had similar-ish commanders where you could have done that.
Yeah.
But this blue, black, red that's pretty good. You steal their creatures, and you get +2/+2 menace and death touch. If you can find a way to steal them permanently, that's fantastic. Most of the red ones are just to lend a turn. And then stealing their spells, casting non-creature spells you don't own, you get 2 mana back. You get 2 treasure tokens.
Yeah.
Which is also semi-common in red. Like the
I feel like blue does that. A
blue can do it. A Tolly comes to mind,
Yeah.
right? Or he'll steal cards from everybody's library, and you get to cast them for free. And you get your treasure tokens back with this guy. So that's like, oh, that's cool. It's the pirate plunder theme.
Yeah.
You could build a deck around that for sure.
Interesting. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I might make him my top choice for my 32 deck challenge.
Yeah,
whatever.
for Grixis, blue, black, red.
Yeah. What other commander you got there? You said you had 4.
Yes. So every commander I've talked about up until now, I thought was fantastic. But this is simply the best one of all because it's
Is it Chiller Pillar and Commander in Legendary?
He's just a really chubby goblin. I just like the art of this one.
Right, well, you gotta.
I don't think it's strong at all, but we'll put him up on the screen. His name, maybe her name. I don't know. Zoyowa Lava Tongue.
Lava Tongue. Okay.
It's black and a red, 2 for a 2/2 legendary goblin warlock. Death touch. The beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, which is you put a permanent card into your graveyard. Each opponent may discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. He deals 3 damage to each opponent who didn't. Whatever. Like, you make your opponents discard or sack permanents, or they take 3 damage. Woo. It's a 2/2 death touch. It's a fat goblin, though. It's hilarious.
Oh, that is hilarious.
That's a chubby
That's
goblin.
a chubby goblin. And that's a commander?
Yeah. I mean, it's an uncommon legendary, but yeah. It's not like they've done joke arts on goblins before. Like, this is the goofy, wacky goblin art. Like, no, this looks like a serious goblin, but it's just bad.
Yeah, it's quite good looking art, to be honest.
Yeah. It's and like it's got like a cool staff or whatever, but it's just that's a fat goblin. I enjoyed that art.
That's fair.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about the capybara art. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
I still think that's the most hilarious creature type they've ever come out with.
It is pretty good.
I mean, that's just hilarious.
This set got some good vibes.
Got some good ones. They're redeeming themselves since Commander Masters and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I had 2 more. One is one that I sent to you. It's an elephant.
Oh, yes.
Well, actually, it's not an elephant.
Oh.
Its creature type is Quintorius.
Oh, yes, because he's a planeswalker.
He is a planeswalker.
Yeah, so that's his name. Planeswalker types are their names. Yep.
Yeah, he looks like an elephant though.
He is
Quintorius Canned. I don't know.
Canned. He's from Strixhaven.
Originally,
he was a creature on Strixhaven, but he.
Oh, that's right. He
got his spark in the big war,
and now he's an Ixalon.
And now he's a planeswalker on Ixalon. Yep.
5 mana for this guy. He's a red and white, and he has a static ability which is whenever you cast a spell from exile, which is that.
Yep. That fits in the dinosaur.
Red, white. Yep. He deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life.
I like it.
Which,
solid.
If you're playing him, kind of insult to injury on casting spells from exile with not the delve, the discover. Then his +1 is create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token.
It's fine.
Not bad. Fine. His -3 is discover 4.
That's what that commander does anyway. When he enters, like discover 4 seems pretty solid.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna, put a bunch of payoff spells in 3 mana stuff, 4 mana stuff.
Your mana curve should be roughly 3, give or take. So the vast majority of your stuff is going to be like 3 or below.
Yeah.
And a lot of your ramp as well. Yeah, there's tons. Removal should be like 3 and under. So.
Yeah. Then his -6 is, in my opinion, good, but also kind of like lackluster for an ultimate, right? Yeah. It's exile any number of target cards from your graveyard. Add 1 red mana for each card exiled this way. You may play those cards this turn.
Okay.
So you can play them and you get mana for exiling them.
Yeah, so they give you a lot of mana. It's just red mana, though?
Just red.
So it gives you the mana and ideally to cast those spells. And then if he's still alive, which is good, you also get the life back from a static ability. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not fantastic. It's not amazing.
You can never totally evaluate a planeswalker on their ultimate. It's like they're static, their plus and then their minus if it's like removal or something is always pretty
Yeah,
good.
I think his -3 isn't bad. Just
Yeah.
a free discover. Well, not free, but
It's free discover. His static ability I think is good enough.
I mean, and he comes out with 4 loyalty counters, and so you can immediately do the discover 4 if you're
Immediately do the
needing
minus.
something else in the game.
Yeah, or just tokens to block. Any planeswalker that makes tokens, in my opinion, I think is solid. I love dropping a planeswalker and then making a blocker.
Yeah,
It's really
for
good
sure.
to keep them alive.
For sure. And then he becomes a 5/5, at that point to block. Well, you guess you can't block with him, but
Yeah, not with your planeswalker, but
yeah.
he
But
gets 5 health. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Quintorius.
casting spells from exile is kind of a cool thing,
It's getting more and more common, all the synergies these days. So
Then this is my the next card, which I actually really think is kind of a cool card.
all right, Steven's
It's,
top pick.
It might be my commander for my green-white deck,
Ooh, okay.
which is it's quite fascinating. It has some really cool synergies with green and white.
Is this the cat?
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy looks cool.
Yeah.
Read on.
So it's Kutzel Malamet Exemplar. Malamet Exemplar. It's a legendary creature, obviously. Cat Warrior. So it's 3 mana, 3/3.
Very good.
1 colorless, green and white. And it's kind of cheap for this effect. It's your opponents can't cast spells during your turn is like the number 1 effect, which is like for 3 mana, just like have that on the board, and you can have that out all the time if they're your
Can't
commander.
argue with that.
I mean, I would pay 3 mana for that in general. Like if it was an enchantment, like.
No casting spells on my turn. Stop.
Although to be fair, enchantment removal is more rare than creature removal, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But then the second ability is kind of like the one that makes you want to make her the commander.
Mm-hmm.
Is whenever 1 or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Oh yeah. Is read the first line. Whenever 1 or more
Yeah.
deal combat
So you only get 1 card draw per
per
turn.
player.
Per player, yes.
Yeah. So if you attack 3 players, they have to deal combat damage to a player.
Correct.
They draw a card with base power higher than their base
With
power.
Power greater than its base power.
Yeah, so 1/1 counters. Pretty easy.
Or even enchantments that
Even
give
enchantments.
it,
It's so easy.
it's so easy.
To
In
buff.
green, white.
Green white to buff your
I mean,
creatures.
green 1/1 counters. White also has like
the
significant.
anthem effects. They're
Yeah.
called, yeah,
Yeah,
on enchantments.
I mean it's really easy in green white to do
Green
that.
white has a lot of cat synergies, so you can
Yep.
just do like cat aggro, and you're constantly drawing cards to refill your hand. That seems fun. And then nobody can counterspell you or do anything to bother you.
No instance on your
No
turn.
fogs.
Ooh,
'Cause you always get your combat damage. So you're
Yeah.
always drawing cards.
no fogs, and
Mhm. No shenanigans.
none. Give them all, figure out a way to give them all protections from stuff and whatnot.
White's really good at the big blowout spells of like, I give all my creatures double strike and indestructible now.
I mean, and think about like, oh well, someone's going to cast like a board wipe on your turn. Well, white to Fairy's Protection it.
Boom. Yep.
And there's multiple spells that do similar things where
Yeah.
you just protect yourself from it.
Yeah, you could even like, if you want to branch into tokens, you can do a big token theme too. Like,
Well, my thought was something similar to like basically a smash up mix between my green stompy deck and my spirits deck.
yeah,
Figure because the
go
spirit
wide and 1/1 counters.
exactly. I mean, exactly. They're not going to be 30/30s
No.
like my big green stompy decks can be,
Yeah,
and you might not be able to go as wide as the spirit deck, but if
like
you've got 7
seven
4/4s?
7. Oh, okay, 7 4/4s.
well, even 4. I mean, 7 4/4s is quite a bit of damage.
Yeah.
And if
again,
they all have flying because they're spirits,
and a big white blowout spell, the instant speed, like, and now they have double strike.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna just wreck.
That seems fun. Yeah, cats.
So I think she's gonna be my green-white commander.
Well, maybe we'll both make Ixalon commander decks in 1v1. Dinosaurs
That's not
versus
fair
cats.
though,
Oh,
because
okay.
I would die so quickly. You're so much of a better deck builder than I am.
Well,
You also have way more practice. I will say I'm very proud of my big green stompy
yeah,
deck.
yeah. No, you're getting better at it.
My big green stompy deck I'm very proud of. I
Mhm.
still need to go back and rework my ninja deck.
There's a couple commander decks. My first ones I've taken apart. Like they don't exist anymore, Steven. You don't see what I used to be. So
I mean, let me tell you, my ninja deck does work in 1v1s.
Yeah.
It really does.
It works for that.
I mean, you were there when I was 1v1 in Caleb.
Yeah, it was
and,
like a turn 5 win.
Yeah, which is
1v1 commander is like a different beast, but also,
I mean, it
works.
I've always 1v1s good to go.
Yeah.
Not 4-player games. Not even 3-player games.
We need to test like we thought about, we'll do like a 1v1 commander tournament, but then we should also just do like stacked deck tournament just to like what's the absolute most powerful?
Oh yeah.
Just stack your deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like you pick your starting hand. How can you win? Which CEDH, that's obvious, you win on turn 1. But for just like any normal deck, it's like how fast can you win in a normal game of Commander if you stack every card?
I'm trying to think of how I would do it in my big green stompy deck.
Do you put enough like counter spells and removal at the top, or you just try to win as fast as you can?
See, I think for me, what I would do with my big green stompy deck is just get all of my ramp on the top.
Just ramp, yeah.
I mean, like turn 3, just have all of my land.
Yeah, it's just like enough lands, ramp, and then some sort of card draw engine.
And are we just stacking our starting hand and then shuffling the rest, or are we stacking like the first 10 cards?
Either or. Traditionally, stack deck is like
everything.
You could stack it however you want.
Ooh, interesting. So
some of your ramp is shuffle effects though, so it might not be relevant after 10 cards, but if you're shuffling the deck, then
yeah, that's true. But some of it's not.
Mana
so
dorks.
my thought is basically just like put all of my mana dorks on the top, not the sacrifice draw but like put all of those at the top and the rest just land, right?
And then just the rest of your deck will be gas.
Well, and then the next card after my hand is grows off.
Yeah, there you go. Or Cultivated Colossus.
Yes, sorry. Yes, Cultivated Colossus and that abundance.
Abundancia.
And then I need, I can theoretically at that point tap for a ton of mana.
Yeah. Do whatever you want after that.
And then I have all of my mana on the board.
Yeah.
Turn 4.
And then somebody on their stack deck, they're like, Armageddon, destroy all lands. That's the only card I put on top.
Yeah, well, I would probably just concede at that point because exactly. I would have had all my lands out, and so like
that's why like stack deck is kind of funny. The best story, I don't know if I've told you before, is back in the day my brother had just like mono red goblins. This was like 60 card Commander. 60 card Magic, kitchen table playing with his buddy who had like elves, right? And so it's like it's like, oh, I'll let you go first. She's like, mono red, you sure? Yeah, go ahead. So they stack deck. He's like, I'll play a mountain and pass. Like, okay. And so it's like his buddy, the elf, is like, I'm gonna play forest. I'm gonna play a mana dork, and then I'm gonna do this. And he's like, I'm gonna shock your elf. Just 2 damage, just kill the elf. He's like, I don't have another land for 30 cards. These were my only 2 sources of mana. Was 1 land and the elf, and then it was just gonna multiply elves. He's like, yeah, all I put was shock up at the top. That's all I needed. So
because he knew that was the strategy for elves.
He knew that's the strategy for elves, yeah. So you just got to get rid of the 1 mana.
I think it honestly makes it more of a chess game.
Yeah, totally.
We should do that for, I think, I don't know if you saw the text messages when you were in the bathroom.
No.
Colin might be out tonight for hanging out.
Oh, okay.
So some Magic. I think it's 3 players stack deck.
Some little
or maybe
challenges.
4 if Hanson's there.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Kind of fun.
Actually, anyway, next time.
Well, yeah, I think we're way over time.
We're a bit over time.
It's already 11.
Yeah, it's time to go.
Well, there it is.
See ya.
See you next time on the 5G Podcast.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the 5G Podcast. We hope you enjoyed.
As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content.
We're available on all social medias, as well as you can watch or listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Again, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks.